because we come here on the podcast and we express opinions, sometimes we'll have somebody who disagrees, and that's lovely. And sometimes we'll have somebody who disagrees a lot, and it turns into like, I hate you for disagreeing with me. You know, as an example, like Barbie is one of those things that's really hypercharged. I have not even seen the movie. I just sat here being like, I don't really like that. It's political. And that alone was enough to like make a few people go to 11. So some of these topics, you know, when you're talking about movies, art, you know, it would have been nice if we could talk about movies and art without anybody going through the roof.
Yeah. And I even like qualified things like I don't want to yuck your yum and all that. And people pointed out they don't like that expression, but it's, you know, like I can like what I like, you like what you like, and I'm going to explain it without I'm not going to censor I'm not going to make up my opinion.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. It takes all types, you know, and so there's a lot of really well-adjusted people in our comments who I love a good like, hey, well, to be fair, this is what I think, or you know, I think you guys missed this or whatever. But sometimes we'll get like, you got to remember, guys, like we're not making video essays here. This is not scripted material. This is you know, my friend and I having a chat. And
yeah, I just called Jessica Biel Jessica Alba recently. I didn't do that like because I didn't do my research.
So that sometimes they'll say things. They'll be like, I don't like that you fucking got it wrong. I'm like, well, we might get it wrong. Okay, yeah, and so settle down. So I'd like to remind anybody who's not heard of this sort of thing before, maybe some younger people, or maybe just people who've never really talked about this before. There's kind of, you know, there's these things called logical fallacies. And some of you, not all of you, but some of you are engaging in a few. And I'd like to interact with you. And it makes interacting with you difficult. It makes it so that we can't really have like an interesting conversation. Instead, we just have an inflammatory conversation. And so I'd like to kind of go over some of the basic logical fallacies, what they mean, and then maybe even kind of some of my own little ones that I see all the time on the internet that I'd like to talk about. And if you use one of these, you're banned from the show. No, I'm just kidding. No, a lot of these actually, like, there's a time and a place. Like, it's not like these are rules for like never do this in an argument or something. It's just like they're things to look out for because they could misrepresent your argument, or they could really not make a point. And I'll kind of go through those. So they're not inherently bad. They're just often abused by people that are making bad faith arguments. That's what's going on. So let's see. When you call someone a simp. So this is, of course, a very Zoomer term, very online term, but like you'll defend something or someone, and instead of somebody retorting about why it's not, you know, here's the reason why that person's not defensible or that position's not defensible, you'll simply say you're a simp for that. In other words, it's a way of saying you don't believe the thing that you believe. You just want to defend that thing or that person, right? So it's fallacious. It's not actually engaging with the ideas. It's name calling. Similarly, bad takes or L takes. That is a sneaky way to say something that we all know is inappropriate, which is to say, like, your opinion is a bad opinion. Everybody knows, like, that you know, it would be kind of bold to be like, your opinion is bad. So instead you say that it's a bad take, which is kind of a way of implying like you're hurting your reputation with this. Are you sure you want to do that? So it's a little, I think it comes as a veiled sort of social or reputational threat.
Yeah. Well,
you know
this is L Takes the podcast. So you know.
Another one like that is the interchanging caps. Like, oh, because Barbie's political, you know, again, not, you know, okay. So you're saying this movie's not political. Is that, am I right? Again, it's refusal to engage with the idea. Of course it's political. It's end-to-end political. Is it not?
That's political. I mean, I'm sorry. Like, you can like the politics. Cool. It's political. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Come on. Well, then the next thing I'll say, well, but everything's political. Well, okay.
No,
I'm glad that we agree. It's political.
No, there's things that veer into propaganda, and there's things that are more artful.
Right. Right. Dahmer, for instance. My new favorite show. On that same note, attributing motive or guilt by association. So like, you know, if attributing motive would be like, you're a nothing channel that just is just talking about this for clicks, right? So you're a
Clout
grifter.
chasing.
So calling somebody a grifter, that's very common.
Yeah, clout chasing, grifter.
Clout chasing. It's like you don't believe the thing you're saying. You're just saying it because you're a simp. You're chasing clout, whatever. So attributing motive or guilt by association would be something like truly evil people have had opinions that are similar in some ways to this one that you have. Therefore, are you sure you want to have that opinion? So again, it's kind of a threat. Bad faith. They're trying to shut you up. You know, in Hook, Captain Hook goes, they did that to shut you up.
They tell you stories to shut you up.
Ad hominem, you know, for some people's tastes, we say like too much. We use the word like too much. A couple of Valley girls. So that would be, you know, just again, instead of engaging with the ideas, I don't like, they say like, or this guy's got a stupid laugh. This guy laughs
How
at
dare
this
you?
guy.
How dare you?
Yeah, you know, I got a goblin laugh. EJ's got a whatever. You know, he laughs at his friend's jokes. The fucking idiot.
Fucking idiot. I love my friend and I like laughing at him.
And by the way, there is a Great Bowser did a wonderful painting of EJ.
Oh yeah. It encapsulates the cackling.
It's great. It's EJ with his head back. He just doesn't care at all. You know, he's just gonna laugh at whoever he wants to laugh at. So we all know straw manning, right? So just for the people in the back, straw manning is when you take somebody's point and you exaggerate it to the point that it's a terrible argument that nobody would actually defend, and then you can easily defeat it, right? And I think you can do something I haven't really heard a lot about is when you do that about a feature about somebody. So you can kind of like exaggerate a feature about them. Again, like maybe like something to do with the way they look or with the way they speak, you know, and just exaggerate that feature about them to make them kind of extra unlikable, you know? Hypocrite arguments. So if your instinct, I think, when engaging with somebody's ideas is to immediately be like, how can I call them a hypocrite? How can I like find something that they've said before that contradicts this? And then that'll just topple the entire thing. Again, I think that's just kind of a cheap tactic. That's like using like a special attack. That's like spamming a special attack on the person. Because the truth is like everybody's going to have said something that's contradictory. And the other thing that I've run into is they might point out something that's like, it kind of looks like you've said the same, you know, you've said contradictory things, but actually there are distinctions to be made between those two things. But then all you're doing is spending all your time trying to outline why it's not hypocrisy. And so they've kind of taken up all the bandwidth of the argument, and you're not talking about the root thing to begin with. So it's like, well, whether or not I'm a hypocrite, what about the thing I'm saying right now? You know, like,
yeah. Because you have a bunch of opinions over time too. So some people address old opinions or old viewpoints in a landscape that was totally different from what we're in now. Yeah,
or you hear about whataboutism. I think that's along the same lines, and it's not always inappropriate, or it can be extremely useful to point out a double standard. A double standard might reveal like a serious flaw in somebody's thinking, and so it could be really important to point that out. Be like, why do you claim to care so? But you are treading into that territory of accusing the person of not meaning the thing they say. And I think like it's better to, again, a good faith argument would be like, I'm going to believe that you believe the things that you're saying, and then I'm going to engage with those things. Identitarianism. So this is kind of like picking on a trait, but it might be like your middle age, what would you know? You know, or you're 20, what would you know? Or you're short, what would you know? Something like, I'm going to like take something about, well, you live on the East Coast, and so you wouldn't understand, you know, this is kind of like
boomer.
Yeah, it's taking something about you and invalidating you.
Okay, boomer, yeah, boomer. Whatever you say, boomer.
And I think to that same extent, like if you don't have firsthand experience about the thing that you're talking about. So for instance, if I were to note a problem with a certain substance and I myself do not imbibe that substance, to say that like you require firsthand experience, you need to like become addicted to a drug in order to talk about like whether or not addiction to that drug is a problem is, I think, anti-intellectual. It means that you can't abstract thought, and you can't observe you can't externally observe problems with something, let's say. the firsthand experience, lived experience, firsthand experience is the only valid kind of evidence to support an argument. Of course, it's silly.
Yeah.
I really like this one. I think you're going to like this one too. Why do you care so much?
Yes.
In other words, why ever talk or think about this? Like, don't talk about it at all. Most of the time it's because the speaker does care and wants to shut you up.
Yeah.
To shut you up.
This is kind of a reverse version of one of the ones from before, but parroting. So, if you wanted to defend the Star Wars prequels and you didn't know how, if you were to just parrot Star Wars is for kids, Star Wars is for kids, everybody else is saying that seems to work. Just repeat after the mob. It's not for you. I didn't like She-Hulk. Well, it's not for you. Right. That's just, you're just saying something that somebody else said, right? You leased an argument from somebody. You'll return it in the morning. I think like sloganeering is in that family of idea. Equivocating or relativism. So this would be like, hey, I think it's a problem if you're addicted to X substance, or if you're addicted to video games. And they go, well, yeah, but everybody's addicted to something. So that's kind of like the end of the discussion. Like,
Yeah.
Okay, so what? Like, again, you're not engaging with my ideas. You're just wanting to. So the sorts of things you'll hear are, yeah, but we all do that. Or yeah, but everybody does that. Both sides are guilty of that. If there's like a two-sided debate, like let's say a political debate. Yeah, we're all addicted to something. It's always been that way. Like, it's always been that way. So they're accusing you of saying that it's new. How can we know what's good or bad? Who are you to say that playing video games too much is a bad thing? Maybe it's the same thing as learning a new skill. Who's to say? Who the fuck? We can't know.
We can't know.
So relativism, slogan, equivocating. Nominalism. Do you know what this is? This is when you try to turn the whole argument, into about the definition of the words being spoken.
Oh, yes.
And distract from the entire thing. You're like, well, what's your definition? You just start trading definitions and
maybe words don't mean anything.
So it's retreating to this like, oh, let's go to this kind of nihilistic abstract place where I can't possibly lose an argument because nothing means anything, right? And then finally, this is the last one I got, like appeals to emotion. Where you need to get out of the argument and you need to get out of it with moral superiority over the person. So maybe you suddenly you're like, but I've got a brother who's impacted by the things you're saying, or whatever. Or
weed can help people with Parkinson's.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, because that's what we're talking about, right?
That means I can smoke it all day while playing Ninja Turtles on my arcade.
Like, hey, I don't think you should play video games 13 hours a day. You're like, well, I mean, some people are learning valuable skills about teamwork like for 13 hours a day, really. That's not appealing to emotion. That's just a bad argument. This is just a weak argument, but anything that would make the speaker suddenly have to walk on eggshells about the argument. So like, sometimes you hear people say as a X, as a blank, and like, so, personalizing it to the point of like, okay, well now we can't have like an intellectual conversation about this.
Yeah.
There's another one that one of our friends in Discord pointed out that is a really good one. It's called Moat and Bailey. So, in a castle, you've got like the moat and you've got the Bailey. And the concept there is you have like, let's say, an extreme position on something, and then you repeatedly retreat to a more neutral ground, a more neutral position on it. So you're like, I think we should ban books, and like all of them. And then you're like, why do you want to ban books? And you're like, well, I'm just talking about ones that show how to commit Jeffrey Dahmer's crimes. and then when their back is turned, you're banning more books. So that's a good one too. So again, none of these are necessarily inherently bad, but I think that it's worth trying to reset the clock on some of these conversations.
Yeah.
I look forward to the comments.
It's because, we're just trying to have fruitful discussions. And so it's important to think about the pitfalls and what you're going into, because we're just trying to have a discussion here, man.
Yeah, and I make the mistake repeatedly of thinking that if I make myself very clear in the video, like if I really center my point around some key bit of detail, that will be heard, understood, and considered in the response. And then it's not. It's like skipped over. And then I feel like, and then I do like a follow up where I like clarify it further, and then it's like skipped over again. I'm like, or the person who was most mad didn't see the follow up. So whatever, you're like, can't really address it. It's a good reminder for everybody, like us, everybody, like, try to consider each other human beings. And, like nobody, well, maybe some people, but nobody has like a cardboard opinion, hopefully, about things. Like everybody's got some depth to these things.
Subscribe to Red Cow Entertainment on Patreon for full episodes every other week.